Dr.Jackie's brand new podcast, Ask Dr. Jacquie. We can't wait to hear and talk about the latest and greatest when it comes to your relationship.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Jacquie and I'm back to talk about something really kind of controversial. I want to go on record talking about feminine energy. I feel like it's under attack. And I don't really know why. I think that you can do you, I can be me, but we can still be feminine if that's our preference. So with me, I have today Michelle Ferguson and Alex, also known as AKA Homestead Poppy. Welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I hope y'all have something to say. So I'm just going to jump in right quick and I'm going to talk about this whole issue of feminine, being feminine. Listen, I'm a woman, W-O-M-A-N, and I make no apologies for it. I like being a woman. And I hear a lot of women say, hey, I'm my own woman. I don't need no man to do. I do. I like a man. I want a man. I like people to open my door and to help me with things. I'm the kind of chick that if I'm walking down the street and I'm struggling with something, I'll say, excuse me, sir, can you help me? And I don't feel bad about it. And what I find is usually I'm well received. Whether it's someone of an opposite culture or color, they'll come to your aid. But I feel as if now there's this counterculture that kind of makes us feel or wants us to see ourselves other than maybe the way that we feel in our autonomy. I like being a woman. I'm a bad sister though. Now I can throw down, I can do my own getting, I can do my own fixing, I can do a lot of that. But my preference is I like to be led. I like being feminine. I was always a tomboy, but I also like putting on a dress. I also like being treated delicately. I like that. Sound off.
I was going to ask the two women here, because we touched on it last week, but what exactly is you all's definition of it? Because I think that a lot of the times we don't understand what something is because everyone has a different definition of what they call it. So what is femininity, if I'm saying that right, or feminine energy? What is that to both of you?
So I'll answer that. For me, feminine energy or femininity for a woman is for intuitiveness. We have that naturally innate within us. Most men do not operate off of intuition.
Correct.
We're caring, we're nurturing, we're loving. We know how to be gentle. We know how to be submissive. I think women don't like that word submissive. And I always say there's a difference between being submissive and being dominated.
No, and being a fool.
And being a fool, right?
Yeah.
You have to be submissive. I mean, you're coming under the leadership of whoever's head. You're submissive at your job. You're under your boss's leadership. He doesn't dominate you, so it's a stable relationship. Your man shouldn't dominate you, but you submit to his leadership. So that's what, for me, feminine energy is. And you're knowing when to be graceful, when to be sweet, when to be humble, when to be gentle. You don't have to be that raging bull. But I think femininity is under attack because women have come into now this masculine role of now I'm working, now I'm a boss. So I put on this masculine because femininity, which is you're part of that, is also being, I would say, not emotional, but showing emotion or being to emote your emotions, to be communicative. That is under attack. And they don't like that in the business area. So we don't separate that. Okay, I'm in the business. I'm not being overly emotional, but it's okay for me to express my emotions. I'm one that I don't express my emotions. I was taught not to express my emotions. So that is hard for me in my feminine to come out.
So then,
because in the workplace...
But see, that's what bothers me. Is that I feel like people want to make you feel bad about who you feel to be. Again, we're talking about autonomy.
Yeah.
That's your ability to be authentically you. And this whole notion about like emotions being bad, I'm just so against it. But it took me a while to figure out that it was affecting me too. Like I would always say, like, I agree, don't make decisions off of emotions. But I think our emotions is the very essence of what separates us from men. That's why we're intuitive. Because we are more emotional, we're more detail oriented. We sense and feel.
So I was going to ask both of you guys this. Who teaches a woman to be feminine? Because I know as a male, you're taught how to be a man by your father or by an older male figure. I don't know how feminine energy and femininity works. So do you get that definition from whoever was the motherly or you know what I'm saying? Like I
think
don't
it's
even know how
a normative thing. I think so, it's a societal norm. There's expectations. There are gender roles for us. But in our efforts to break free from that, I think we've swung too far to the left. It's almost like, whenever something is out of balance or people try to get liberty, they take it to an extreme. And then we got to find that balance again. And I think that that's where we are at the extreme now, where women want to act just like a man. I want to have sex with you and you and you, and not having an emotional attachment, when that is the seat of our uniqueness. So now I want to act just like a man, where it's just a thing. I'm just going to get turned on, I'm just going to do my thing. I don't need to know you, talk to you, or whatever. I feel like that's also castrating a part of our identity. Then you have women feeling as if I'm going to run my whole household, I'm going to take care, I'm going to make my money. And they don't have a sense of being able to fully meld with somebody, fully collaborate, fully collapse two into one, which is really what marriage is all about. Because there's this need to still be independent and, separate.
So to piggyback off what you said, and to answer your question, you are supposed to learn femininity from your mother.
Okay.
However, if you talk about the Black community, we have a lot of single mothers. So they're not operating in their femininity. They're operating out of masculinity because they feel they have to, because they're trying to compensate for the man, which they shouldn't do. They should just be in that feminine role. They should just be the mother. Don't compensate for the man. You bring another man in as a role model or a mentor, or what we've learned now is a jegna. So that's where you're supposed to learn it at. But it goes back, if you look at a historical aspect, back to the World War, when women said they could be strong. I could do anything a man could do. That was that mantra. You have that lady with the bandana and she has the fist. That was the precursor to what we see now of women being in that masculine energy, being that masculine role. So we don't get to see true femininity from a woman, what that looks like. Because we have this strong woman, or this strong Black woman complex now that we don't know how to get out of. Men are supposed to be strong. We are supposed to be gentle. Now, yes, women are strong, can do a lot of things. Some things men can't do, like having a baby. I'm sorry, y'all can't do that, right? Even when y'all get sick, y'all some big babies. Women, we be sick and we have going to work and we be
still
cooking
taking
and
care of
cleaning,
everybody.
taking care of stuff. But physically, a man is physically, according to your makeup, is stronger than us. But we have taken on this thing that we have to be strong, and it's not good for us to be the not lesser vessel, but to be soft. And there's nothing wrong with being soft.
But it should look like this, that we can still be in the army, the military, if we want to, but then take our hair down and still find that soft place where we can rest up under somebody. There has to be a leader in a family. There can't be two heads. That's a monster. Right? So there has to be that. But I want to turn it around, and I really want to hear from you as a man. What do you see in terms of women and their feminine, or what is your reaction to them being emotional creatures? Because the truth is, I remember my house, if my sons, because I'm the only female, if they see you like emote too much, hey, what's going on? Like, and I would tell them, I'm a woman. That's what we do, Not that I'm reacting in a inappropriate way. I'm just showing emotion. Hey, what's happening over here? How come? Who put that? Hey, wait. They don't like that. They want you to be like even and with a deeper register of your voice. I think that on so many different fronts, even from the male perspective, there's not a real appreciation or respect for the feminine.
I was gonna say that same thing. I think because of mainly what Michelle was talking about, if everyone's confused, especially from our background, being Black, with what masculine is, what feminine is, because there's such brokenness, and then there's people overcompensating, specifically, like she said, the Black woman trying to be a father and a mother at the same time. I think that it gives us all a distorted view, because I know so many people who's like, think about even the basketball players. Oh, you're the real MVP and all that. And all of it is talking about she's such a real woman because she was there to take me to practice, to teach me how to play, to then also cook it for me and provide, and you did everything for me. That's like what most people think a woman is like someone that just kind of like does whatever they have to do, even if they're not supposed to, for their family. So in that case, it's also very confusing to men, because it's like, well, if that's what the representation is, and now you're saying that's not it, it's like men don't know what to appreciate, because we call feminism something off of what we see. You guys call it off of what it truly is, but that's not really being seen.
But remember, you just said feminism.
Oh, sorry, femininity.
Or yeah.
Sorry.
So we're talking about the feminine versus a feminist, which is very different. So the feminist
Correct.
movement is where
I said
women
that.
wanted to be seen as equals. It's almost where they wanted to blur or get rid of the gender line altogether. And that brings me to another point, which is another reason why I think that there's confusion. I think people, including myself, I love everybody. I don't care if you're same sex. I love everybody and I respect everyone. So, but at the same time, I think sometimes people are confusing or don't want to acknowledge gender as being separate because we're in an era now where just you can accept somebody that's same sex. That doesn't mean now we have to get rid of gender altogether. Do you understand? So I think that these are the areas or points of confusion that I think are affecting people everywhere, and it's causing us to really lose sight of this is on this end and that is on that end. And just like people respect people that are same sex as I do, I feel like also I need to be respected, that I feel feminine and I want to be feminine.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in terms of feminism, that is not my judge. I am against it. When I'm with the man, my wrists are broke. I want you to take my garbage out. I want you to open my door. I want you to carry things that are heavy. That is not my role. I'm fine with gender roles because, my man knows this is my kitchen. Stay out of it unless you want to help me from time to time. This is my
No,
domain.
I love to share the kitchen now.
I don't, because I'm very particular in how I like my things
Don't
to
we
be.
know it? Don't we know it?
Yeah, so I like you to be outside of that. But I think what's wrong with roles? You go to a job and you have a defined role. So why can't you have a defined role in your relationship?
That's good.
Exactly.
I agree. Well, that's one of the 7 pillars that I created in my 20-something years of working with couples, is that I found that there's 7 different pillars that will make a strong relationship. And one of them is gender roles. It's marital roles. If it's one of the most obscure areas of a relationship, but it's so important because a lot of times people are disappointed. They might not even verbalize it, but they're disappointed because the way that they always saw themselves in their mind's eye, the way that they saw that their spouse was going to respond or act in their mind's eye, when that is not carried out or fulfilled, there's a sense of sometimes resentment, deep disappointment, and even the question marks, am I with the right person in the right relationship? And so I think that marital roles are very, very important, and we all have them. And again, they should be respected. I think that that's the underlying common denominator that I really want to espouse. So can you talk to me about what it looks like in terms of how do you see women behave? If you could just describe that as a male.
Man, that sounds like you're trying to get me in trouble.
Man,
that's such a like alley-oop to getting canceled.
Yeah, you better learn.
I'm like, man, I'm like, what? Wait. So please repeat the question.
Don't be afraid.
And let me see if I have to call my lawyer.
Yeah. Tell me, just give us a brief description of how you see typical women acting.
Give us a look.
In what way? I mean, I honestly am trying to think of even how I would answer that for a male.
Maybe you can juxtapose it to the way your mother behaved.
Oh, okay. Well, then
the
nothing
way that
like
you
that.
see.
And before I answer your question, I was going to ask you guys the question of exactly like what I was getting at. So if you came from a single parent household where your mom was trying to be daddy and mama, then that's not true femininity, correct?
Right.
So then how would you now imagine if that person is now trying to start a family or has a family? How would they know?
They're not. They're going to perpetuate the same thing with their offspring.
I wanted to make sure that
which
was
is a part of the issue here. This is why we're where we are now with this discussion.
So how do you teach that?
Everything is taught mostly. The biggest teacher is observation. It's our experience. It's what we live with. It's what we know as real and normal for us, right?
For sure.
But I think that the other part of it is being cognizant that, I didn't have my dad. Listen, my husband grew up with both his parents. His father died when he was 18. So there's an aspect of his life that he didn't get to mature with having that example. I have to remember that when I want to get mad that he does certain things or doesn't do certain things, because he did not have that example in his formative years. Well, he did you could say his formative years, but really when he was transitioning to become a man.
Yeah, he barely
from
had
boyhood to manhood, he did not have that.
That's a good point.
So I think that it's about understanding, hey, that's me. I'm the person that she just described. And then understanding what do you need to do to move forward. So one thing would be to start to recognize and to begin to revive that part of you that's died. You know, I do a lot of traveling for TV. I was on the road a lot by myself. And traveling a lot by yourself, you're in hotels all by yourself, you don't talk to anybody. So like I'm a funny person. I'm always making jokes and stuff like that. And I started noticing that, man, I'm a very serious person now. I never like joke around anymore. And I started thinking like, am I depressed? What is it? I realized, no, it's just that you have now created a new normal. You're by yourself in solitude most of the time. So you're not manifesting that. So then that made me cognizant.
Yeah.
So then I started to revive, right? That part of myself that had gotten lost.
So now I'm ready to answer your question.
Go ahead.
So what I see from the masses of women compared to what I grew up with, it's funny because it's the same thing from the outside, but the spirit of it is different. So for instance, my mom was writing books, started her own business, had her own, was on TV, meeting presidents and stuff like that. That was all throughout my childhood. She was a go-getter, a CEO, all these different things where everyone seemingly knew her. And she was more successful than anyone's father that I knew. So I would say that women in today's aspect mirror my mom from the outside, because now women are, so many women that I even know of, 6 figures, lawyers, doctors, have their own practices of whatever, are killing it. But the difference is even though my mom was like a CEO and a businesswoman and all these amazing things, a public speaker and all these amazing things, she also was such a mother and such a wife. Where now the women that I'm seeing that look like my mom from the outside, half of them do not want to have kids, or if they have kids, they see it as a burden. They don't see it as, and I'm just trying to compare apples to apples. So people that look like my mom, I'm like, oh, look, you're hardworking, you're very smart. You got your own stuff going on. But then the spirit, when I get to know that soul, I'm like, oh, you're nothing like, because you're no longer like a woman. You're literally like me. Like, you think of things like, oh no, but I got to get this, and I want to earn this by this point, and then I want to have this done, and yeah, my business needs to be here. So it's kind of weird because it's like, man, my mom was a businessman in a man's world, if you get what I'm saying. No, but yet she was so feminine when it came to being a wife and being a mother. She took me to school every day. She got me ready. She took care of me when I was sick. A lot of times she even set up a closet in her office so that she could take me sick to work and still be working and taking care of me in between meetings and stuff like that. So I saw she never changed her role. She was just able to bring the mother to the business. So I haven't seen anything like that, where now it's like all people on my mom's stature. Oh, I gotta get a nanny. I gotta cook. I need to earn as much because I don't want to do anything that would be culturally feminine. So I think that that's the biggest thing that I see is not what it looks like. And I think that that's why it's so quick to call a man a male chauvinist, because they might want, I think not any man, me, for instance, if I come from that, I'm going to long for that. Especially traditional Black and Hispanic men come from families where the grandma and the mom cook and take care of the house and do things of that nature. It does not mean that we don't want you to get money or have ambition. It just means that we don't want to sacrifice that for the other thing. But if you voice that, oh, so I got to be in the, what I'm saying? And it automatically goes there. And it's like, oh, wait, am I sexist? And stuff like that. And especially in this era.
I think that's an innate part of the man's going to want that. Even if you had a single mother who didn't exhibit those things, that little boy in him is still going to want that. He's going to look for that in the woman that he's going to be with. Someone to be nurturing, to be a soft place for him to land.
Yeah.
Women want strength. I want to be secure to the person that I'm with. I did have a father growing up, and I did have a mother. They divorced, but I know what it looks like for my mother to work and to still be coming home. Like how I grew up, my mother served my father. She fixed his plate every day. I don't see anything wrong with that. So I grew up with that. So I'm accustomed to it. In our house, the man is served before the children are. So for me, that's how I know that's how things are done. And to me, it's not a ding on me. It doesn't make me feel less than or subservient. I wear that as a badge of honor for me to fix a plate for my
chart.
Yeah.
That's all that is. It's the pecking order.
So
yeah.
So then,
because you know what? If your children die, you can make more if you got the man.
Yeah.
It's an organizational chart. It's showing you the flow.
Yeah.
But to go back to what you said, or asking why don't we see women, or who is that example? I think one of the issues is we don't have intergenerational connectedness anymore.
Very true.
We do not see us interacting with our elders.
At all.
We're not looking for that. We don't respect the opinion of our older generation.
And that was cultural for
it was
us
culture.
as a people.
And
Family
even our
was
grandmothers, grandmother dynamic has changed. Most of our grandmothers now are single. My grandmother wasn't single. She was with my grandfather from 17 until he died. They were together for 50 years when he died. And the same thing my mother did, I see my grandma do. You know, she at one time was a stay-at-home mother, but then she worked. But she still came home. She cooked lunch. She cooked breakfast. She cooked dinner. She watched her grandkids. So I've seen what you're supposed to do for both. You be out in the world, and you know you bring in the money, but you still take care of your family. We don't see it anymore because most of our grandmothers are still hot city girls.
Yeah.
No, and young.
Yeah.
And young, yeah.
I was gonna say this,
They're nowhere near retirement
where
age.
I'm even seeing people that are my age or a little bit younger, literally have a child, and but I'm talking about females. So they'll have the child, and literally be back bartending, back at the club, you know, doing whatever, and it was just so much. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do. What I'm saying is, that's such a quick turnaround from what I grew up seeing. Like when I grew up watching women, like pregnancy and having children changed a woman. Where now it's just like, oh yeah, I was out for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but I'm back, girls, and you know what I'm saying? And even that, it's confusing emotionally to me, because it's not to say that you're wrong, it's just to say, how is it that I grew up my entire life seeing a woman change completely after they had a child to being more of what I would call motherly, or what you guys are calling feminine,
And nurturing.
to now being like a man. Like, our life really doesn't change from, you know,
because you're not carrying a child for 9 months, and you're
then
not delivering it.
Yeah, and then even that emotional bond, like, you have to try to develop that, where now it's like certain things that seem to be innate are no longer.
I love it. So I'll just give you a quick story as we draw this to a close. I worked with a staff member of mine. She was like a daughter to me. And she grew up in foster care. Her mom was on crack. She grew up in the crack house until the state took her. And she was very used to having a room, because you know that's how they have to do it in foster care. You have to give each person a room. If that child has a baby herself, they have to have their own quarters.
Okay.
So she doesn't have that natural, what I thought was innate, a maternal bond. So she has her children, she loves them, but it looks completely different. Number two, one day we were talking, she was just saying how she goes home. I just happened to ask her, so like, what do you do when you get home? She says, oh, I usually go in my room for a minute to just calm down. But I thought she meant she goes in her room for like a second, you know, to get undressed or whatever, get comfortable. She says then she goes out and she cooks, and then she goes back into her room with her food. She's used to being in a room and living out of this room. So she leaves her kids out in the family room to eat on their own. And she goes back into her little room because her whole world is around this room that she spent all of her formative years growing up in. I say that to kind of co-sign on what you're saying. I think a lot of things that we thought were innate, because we as a people do not have the economic power that we should. So now we don't have what you consider to be options. This is what makes you heavy and worrisome in your life, when you don't have options. And that's what we're seeing. Moms have to go to work. There is no other person. See, I had a husband, so if I couldn't work, he was able to pick up the slack and do extra things to make sure that we made it. These moms are single, a lot of them. And I feel badly about it because we've lost our economic prowess, our economic foothold. So now they have to go back to work. That, coupled with the lack or loss of a feminine mind and a feminine energy, it looks exactly like what you said. And I guess what I'm looking at is how our nation is changing. The nations under the sun are changing. And I love this podcast today, the topic, because I feel that it gives us an opportunity to recognize something that we might not have seen as it really is. So I'm hoping that through this discourse, we've been able to undress something like that elephant that's been in the room, but we really didn't know what it was. And I think that this is a part of it. I think men are afraid of being called chauvinists. Other people are being afraid of being called, anti-gay or whatever. And it's not that. I just think that we've lost the femininity, sorry, not feminism, but the femininity. I think we've also lost our gender roles and also our generational blessings that we knew as a people. This is what made us strong. It was a village concept. We don't have the village anymore. But everybody played their role. Now the roles have been mixed up. They've been forgotten. And I think that we're seeing it now that we've suffered.
Yeah.
And so I just want to thank you guys for joining and really sharing. You all brought some real heat today to the conversation. And I hope that nobody took this conversation to me. It's not oh, they're there, or you're wrong, or you're bad. It's to say we've all been affected. But let's get back to the drawing board and remember what made us strong and get back on it. Anyways, I'm glad that you joined us. Look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. Thanks for viewing.